Okay, the recording is now on. We are ready to go. Hayoim, Arba, Varboim Yoim, Shehem Shisha Shavuos, Ushnei Yomim Loimer. We're closing in on Kabbalah Satorah. Yesterday, at the end of the day, Philadelphia, remember part of the time. Yesterday, at the end of the day, as an aside, we used to order Pride of the Farm ice cream. I don't know if the Pride of the Farm ice cream is the best kosher ice cream. And the reason why it's the best kosher ice cream is because it only has natural ingredients. I have a daughter with a lot of allergies, can't eat ice cream, but only eats Pride of the Farm ice cream. It's it's interesting because Pride of the Farm, when the Newburgers made the milk, it's because they needed to eat so they needed to have cholesterol milk. At first, they would be shumei enough and not make ice cream because it's titus. We're not making ice cream. But I guess eventually, Rashiva said that the Efshir Zalman have an ice cream make. Finished, yeah. Okay, anyway, so yesterday we learned that when the mashal at the beginning of the she'ela is sending the animal to the shoyel, or vice versa, at the end of the she'ela, when the shoyel is sending the animal back to the mashal, unless the person receiving the animal officially appointed the delivery person as their shliach, it's not considered like they reach their hands until it actually reaches their hands. And during transit, it remains in the reshus of the person who sent it. So if it's at the beginning of the shlichus, unless the shoyel specifically creates a shliach to pick up the animal, during transit, that animal is not considered borrowed yet. And if a fatality occurs, the mashal is going to lose. The shoyel will not have to pay. What if it was a... It depends on if it was a kinyan done. If there was a kinyan done, sorry, how are you calling a car? How are you? What is a kinyan in a car? Is it kinyan Mashiach, or is signing over pashas based on din and mechusadina? Signing over the deed or the registration is the purchase. So once it's in your name, if anything happens to it, it's at your peril, because it all depends on what affects the kinyan. So we're just about to start the Gemara on Daf, Tzadik Tes Amud Aleph, the very first word at the top of the Daf. We don't have to count lines today. Biyad Avdoi Chayev. One of the cases was that if the shoyel told the mashal, send me your animal in the hand of your eved, the Mishnah doesn't make a distinction, whether it's your eved, whether it's your shliach, whether it's your son. The halach is the shoyel is chayiv, because since the shoyel appointed the shliach, as soon as the mashal gives the animal to the shliach to deliver it to the shoyel, it's already considered in the reshus of the shoyel. Right, the Gemara, I understand if it's a shliach. I even understand if it's benoi. But if it's his eved, chayiv, why? Yad eved ki yad rabbi. We know that the yad of an eved, and we're referring to an eved knaini, is exactly like it's in the hand of the marshal. If the marshal himself was delivering it, nobody would suggest that even if the shoyel appoints the marshal to be the shliach, nobody would suggest that if the marshal is delivering it, that it's considered like the she'ela started already. So if it's in the hand of the eved, it should be no different at all. Amar Shmuel, the eved ivri, we're not speaking about an eved kanani where it's yad eved ki yad rabbi. We're speaking about an eved ivri. It's basically a long-term employment contract, but it's not really an avdus. The owner is not koina the goof of the eved, and therefore, if the shoyel tells the mashal, send it to me with your eved ivri, the moment he gives it over to the eved ivri, the shoyel is now chayiv anonsi. Rav has a massive chiddush. Afilu tem of eved k'naini. Even if you're going to say it was his eved k'naini, not to koimer like he kisha b'machal v'tavei. It's as if he told the owner, do me a favor, I live a couple of doors down. Just send it out of your property, give it a zetz, the animal, give it a zetz, and it'll start walking and it'll come to my property. The halacha is there, the moment it leaves the reshus of the owner, we consider the she'ela to have started. So what's the difference if there's an eved there, if there's not an eved there watching? The animal is considered independently sent. And that's how Rava wants to learn. Zokt Rashi, Nasak Omer Kishav Makal Vitavai, Akarai, it'll come after me to my home. Hilchach, Mishayatisam Yichacher Shal Bailam. The moment it left the Chatzar of Bailam, Bein Beloy Shomer, Bein Aideshem. Who cares if there's an Evet Kanani watching it? It's irrelevant. Amda B'Shur Shoyel. In other words, we're shunting the Evet out of the picture here. He happens to be a chaperone, but he is not impacting the kinyan. The Shibud Nafshe, the Shoyel was already mechayiv himself in oinzim mishateitze mershusai. As soon as the animal leaves the reshus of the mashal, and we're going to assume that the owner gave it a little knock, and that made the animal walk, and that's what affects the kinyan for the she'ela. Okay, Zog to Gemara Meisve. The Gemara is going to have a kasha on Rav's chiddush over here. Hashoyelas apara. You borrow a para. V'shilchaloi, v'yad benoi, v'yad shluchoi, chayev. This is exactly what our Mishnah says, because the shoyel appointed these people as a shliach. But v'yad avdoi, even though the shoyel appointed the eved of the mashal as a shliach, potter. So you see, not like what we just said now. This is arguing on our Mishnah. V'shlema l'shmuel, according to Shmuel, it's a very simple way to resolve this theory between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Masnisim b'd Eved Ivri. Our Mishnah is speaking by an Eved Ivri, and therefore you don't say Yad Eved K'Yad Rabbi, and therefore he's the shliach of the shoyel. And the Brisa, who says Yad Eved Potter, is B'Eved Kanani. That's a perfect way to resolve this theory between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Elul Rav, but according to Rav, where the person that the animal is being sent with is completely irrelevant to the discussion, because this is merely a Hekisha B'Makal situation. Why would Biyad Abdoi be put? Let me correct what I said. You don't say that automatically every time I ask you to send the animal to me with your Eved. It's as if I said, just give it a whack. And therefore, independent of the Shliach, I'm calling it the animal. No. Elaima, it's a nukimta. The Mishnah that says it works is speaking, but Amar Lehikisha B'Makal B'Tavah. Standard is if you're sending with your Eved, it's your Eved who's the Shliach, and Yad Eved K'Yad Rabbi. But if you specifically say, if the Shoel specifically says, no, I don't need any Shliach, just give it a Zet and let it come my way, then and only then would it be good. Which is more of a doicha, because now we have to say that the Mishnah, which says a broad halacha of a Shalech B'Yad Abdei Chayiv, really doesn't mean that. It means a Shalech B'Yad Abdei when it wasn't really B'Yad Abdei. It was really just a Kitzur Makal, and David happens to be coming along for the ride. The Idmar we learned. Right off the bat, I just want to tell you, Tosha speaks out. Pirush Rach the Shmuel Polagale the Rab. Of course, Shmuel doesn't hold the Rab. That's why you have to say it's speaking by Never Ivri. The less Hilchasa Kavasei the Rab. The halacha is not like Rab. The Amar Kisha B'Makal B'Tovei The Chay Mashma the Polag. It's also Mashma elsewhere that the Rab and Shmuel are arguing about this halacha. The Hilchasa Kavasei and the halacha must be like Shmuel. The Gemara wanted to bring a Rav from Rav and was doichik. I think what Tosh is saying is we pass on Shmuel. Am I reading it right? The Shmuel Polagal of the Rav, Veles Hilchos say the Rav, right? The law is not like Rav, which is normal because normally you do pass on Shmuel and Chashmishba. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter. The Itmar we learned. Hashileni Paros. Reuben tells Shimon, can I borrow your ox? Well, Amarle, Yadmi, and how exactly do you want me to get my ox to you? Well, Amarle says, what do you want? He keeps you a makel. Give it as zets, and it'll leave your property, and it'll make its way over to me. That's how you should send it to me. That's going to be, we're actually going to discuss the details of just that. What if it goes somewhere else? Very good point. Very good point. This is all going to be part of the discussion. Amar Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman said, Amar Rabba Baravua. Listen, I know one thing. That when any father sitting with his child, anywhere in the Bismillah and the good, it says, go get some candies. He automatically knows to come either to Shloimi or to Shmuel. How? Because he put out candies. So it's very simple. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua, Amar Rav. Kivon Sheyotzes. Oh, by the way, do you know that is brought down as a school. If someone's sick and he wants to have a refuah, or if someone wants to have a school for Yerusha Shemaim, the stipler says the best school is to become a candyman. Why? Because then every Tanoika Shobis Rabban is excited to see you the next Shabbos. So all week long, they're thinking of the candy. I hope Shlomi Finder will be there. I hope Shmuel Lerman will be there, because this way I'll get my candy. So it's actually, you actually are enlisting a team of Tanoika Shobis Rabban to constantly daven for you, and that's why it's a school for Yerusha Shemaim. In Shmuel's case, it's the adults as well, because what? I actually wanted it when I had my stead. I actually wanted to start being a candy man, but I felt there's too much competition on my table. Shlomi was doing it. It can't be a chazazer. Amarav Kivin Shiyotis Mishus Mashu Umesa. No, so when I had my stand, I was looking for schools for Aricha Shamim, right? So I looked at that, but I was looking for something that didn't have a cost involved. So I remember when my brother-in-law got sick, Shlomi, I got shooken up, right? So I asked him, Shmuel Kamenetsky, can you give me a schooler for Aricha Shamim? So he says, I have a very simple schooler. Drop 50 pounds. That's the best schooler. So I told him, I'm looking for something a little easier. So Zok Tumor, but Shmuel is very practical. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, Amar Rav. He always asks about my weight. He always does. I remember he once met me. He says, "It's so nice to see you, but you didn't have to bring your whole Farmagan." So Dr. Gemara, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravu, Amar Rav. Kimon sheyotzos, mishus mashal, umeisa chayim. It works. It works. This is what Rav Nachman said. Nema Messiah. So this is similar to the Chiddush of what Rav said, right? So Nema Messiah. Let's say we could bring a riot. Let's try to bring a riot to Rav. And this is what Tosfos was talking about. Since the Gemara tried to bring a riot and the Gemara slugged it up, so maybe because of that, the halacha is like Rav. Maybe the halacha is not like Rav, because if you see, you're going to see the Gemara brought a riot to Rav, and the way the Gemara deflected the riot was a very shvacha deflection. But it's mamash mashma like Rav. So why is the Gemara so insistent on such saying a doichik just to avoid the riot to Rav? It must be because the Gemara doesn't hold like Rav, so the Gemara is going to twist itself into a pretzel to find a way that it shouldn't be a riot to Rav. So Dr. Gemara, name him Hashileni Parascha. Yankel, do me a favor, I want to borrow your potter. V'amer sure, beyond me, whom I can send it with. V'amer kishu v'mako, v'tavoy, kivin shata mishus mashal, umesa, chayiv, it's going to be chayiv. So you have a perfect riot. It's literally word for word what Rav Nachman said. Zoktima, you don't have a riot. So you can see here, the Bride says word for word that Rav Nachman said, yet the Gemara wants to say it's not a riot. That means the Gemara has a bias against this halacha. The Gemara holds this halacha cannot be right. Why? The cases over there, and this really discusses what Dubi brought up. What happened was, is you could not, the way you got to the chotzer of the borrower of Reuven was by going through Shimon's chotzer. So Shimon's chotzer had the gateway to Rishus Harabah. So when you would want to go to Reuven's property, you would go into Shimon's chotzer, you would cross through it, and then you'd get into Reuven's chotzer. So if you're in Shimon's chotzer, and you face the animal toward Shimon's chotzer, and you give it a zetz, there's only one way you can go. That's really Professor Dubi's question. Yes, it works. It works because there's only one place it could possibly go. But if someone's down the street, Lab Dafka is going to go to exactly the neighbor that we're talking about. That's exactly the chiluk that the Gemara makes. Amar Avachi, you don't have a raya. Maybe you know where it works. So without a doubt, it's going to go there. That's where it would work. But if it was just down the block, who said that would work? Zok Rashi. The Chatzer Shoyel is lifnimi menu upsucha lechatzer shel mashal. Shenichnosim v'yoytin lechatzer shel shoyel elo derech chatzer shel mashal. You have to go through Shimon's property to get to Reuven's property. To Hatam Sam Chadaiti the shoyel there's a true smichas das and acceptance of achrayis. When the shoyel says send it my way, the shoyel truly accepts achrayis because he knows without a doubt it's coming his way. The Misha Yamdu Abaylam Lefanel. When the Bailam faces the animal in the direction of Shimon's chotzer, of Reuven's chotzer, and then gives him a zetz, surely it's going to go to Reuben's chotzer, because that's the only place for it to go. Who the Mishabit Shal Namshei? Maybe there do you say Yikisha B'Makal works? But if it had to go through the street and go to the right address, even though they tell you to do that, I don't believe for a second you're going to do that. If I tell you just hit it and it's going to come to me, I don't have a having you're going to do that. Because what if it gets lost? I know for sure you're going to dispatch somebody. Once I know you're dispatching somebody, well, now I perceive it like it's in your rishos till it gets delivered to me. Well, that's a totally. Dr. Mora, is that a chiddush that if the animal has nowhere to go but to my chotzer, that it works? It's possible that it works. Dr. Malay Tricha, because even if an animal has nowhere to go but to your chotzer, it could still hide. There could be a corner or a thing sticking out that the animal could go behind and not go into the chotzer of Reuben. When the shayla sits in my way, since there's a small chat, the animal won't come his way. Maybe he's not accepting the chrayas. It won't go straight to him. No, he still assumes it's going to come his way. So this is what the Tosha is referring to. This is a very shvacha deflection because it's really a big doicher. But since the Gemara is going out of its way to deflect the raya, it must be the Gemara does not hold of this whole story. Zok the Gemara back. This Gemara I have a little bit of a difficulty. I think there's a huge chiddush that we're about to see in this Gemara. It started out. Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky once taught me when he spoke for our class by Shmuel Emes Mitzvah. He says the way you make a chiddush is you have a shverkeit, and because you have a shverkeit, you're forced to say there's a chiddush here, and you learn something new because of it. So look at this. Amar Avuna Hashoyel Kardu Mechaveri. Somebody borrowed an axe from his friend. Bakaboy, if he actually used it, no, he's going to be kind. Loy Bakaboy, if he didn't actually use it, loy come. Break the Gemara, I don't understand. Lamai, if it's going to be a chiv oinsin, you don't have to actually use it to be a chiv oinsin. Right here, we're discussing the case of the para. He's not using it. It's merely being sent with a shliach, and we're discussing the shal being mechayiv oinsin. Ma'ishna para to mishat she'ela. The moment the she'ela starts, and what we see here, the moment the she'ela is some chadaita that it's coming his way, his liability begins already. So we can't be discussing liability. Ela l'chazara. What happens if the owner changes his mind? So the animal's on its way, and then the owner changes its mind. It doesn't want to lend it out anymore. Can the owner change his mind? So the halacha is, bakaboy, the moment the borrower has already started using the product. So if it's an axe, he started to use it. If it's an ox, he started to plow with it. Then loy motzei hadu b'mach. But loy bakaboy, if the item that was borrowed had not yet been used, motzei mashal hadu b'mach. The mashal could be chodesh. So to me, there was a massive chiddush because did the shayla begin or did it not begin? If it began, so it began already. So you see from here a massive chiddush that the shayla sets in two stages. The achrayis is totally in me being semachtas to accept it, but the irrevocable nature of the contract of the shayla is not. It's not going to be set in until later. To the back, yeah. I changed my mind. Yeah.
Maybe it's a different. So this is a
So if you borrow the lawnmower, but it sits in your garage the whole summer and you never yet to use it, then
then the owner doesn't even have to back out because he figures you're not using it anyway, and I get free storage. It's like the guy with the rolls who borrowed money from the bank for a week, right? Everyone knows that story. But at the end of the day, it's a huge chiddush. You see, there's two dinim in Shayla, and they're almost completely disconnected from each other. Even though the only reason why I'm chayiv in the Christ is kol shali. And I don't even have kol shali yet because you can still back out, but my chiyuv once it still comes, even before it's irrevocable. I hear. Very good. Okay.
So the lawnmower, similar to the axe, not being where the air is the axe when it actually hits the wood, not necessarily when he goes back.
You wonder when does the bucket boy start?
Yeah.
When it swing back or when it swing forward?
Just like you put out your lawn when you actually start.
When you pull the cord, or you pump the priming bulb. I hear. This chiddush of Rav Huna that a loan does not become irrevocable until it's used is disputing Rav Ami Shita. Damar Bami, Hamashal Kordum shall hektish. I borrow a Kordum shall hektish. So what happens? The Gizbar is in charge of the Kordum shall hektish. and he lends it out to somebody to use, someone who's not doing it for hektish. So the loch is mal, the gizber is mal. Why is the gizber mal? Because the gizber is the one who caused it to be used l'chulin, right? That's how it always works. The gizber is always mal because he's the one who transferred it out. How much does he have to pay? Here you have another big chiddush. So let me make something very clear. There's no intention of stealing the whole thing. He's not giving it to him. He's merely lending it to him. So you can't say the me'ila is on the whole value of the object because he never transferred to him the whole value of the object. All he transferred to him was the use of the object. So you would think that the value of the me'ila is the use of the object. Let's say it would cost $10 a day to rent a kardum, so you think the me'ila is $10. But that's not what the Rav Ami said. It's the Tevis Anoshaba. You know what that means? That doesn't mean the full $10. It means what benefit did the Gizbar get? The Gizbar didn't get $10 worth of anah. The guy who he gave it to gets $10 worth of anah. He got maybe $1 worth of anah because now this guy has to have a car to him. He lent him something. So his me'ila is only based on what he personally benefited. It's disconnected from what was taken away from Hektish. What was taken away from Hektish could have been $10, which is the rental for the day. But the me'ila, you don't look at what the Hektish lost. You looked at what he benefited. I'm sorry? It will be on the lender side, not on the borrower side. Okay, so we're going to see a touches about this if we have time, because this is a big discussion. But you see clearly that my no matter what Hektish loses, the me'ila is based on what I got. The chaveira mutal b'kei the chila. Now that I lent it out and I was already moyel, so it's already yotzes l'chulin, and therefore the chaver who borrowed it l'chatchila can go and use that ox, even though it belongs to him. Right to Gemara, the loy kanoi, he didn't use it yet, right? What did Rav Huna say? If you weren't baka by loy kanoi, the loy kanoi, according to you, Rav Huna, that you weren't kanoi, you could still back out. Amay ma, why would the gizber be done? He could back out and reverse the whole transaction. A and B is v'may chaveri mutar lebakei by lechatchila. How is it that the chaver can use it lechatchila because the me'ila already occurred, and now it's yotzes l'chulin that the me'ila should not have occurred because we could stop this whole thing from happening. Nihadre, let him just give it back. V'loy lekanye, and according to Rav Huna, he wouldn't have been koined, and the she'ela never started. V'loy lima, and he shouldn't be moil. So you see from here that Rab Ami argues on Rav Huna's side. He holds the moment you're kanyat for Einstein, at that point it's irrevocable and the marshal cannot back out of it.
Maybe because the time Salo he got anyway. He showed him, I'm your friend and I'll let you do. So
It doesn't matter if he got times not hektish, nothing was transferred out of hektish yet. And the me'ila only occurs when something is transferred out of hektish.
no, but if you say that but for the Akers was the marshal.
That no, that's not what I meant. What I'm saying is to trigger the me'ila, for sure it has to leave the rishus of hektish. Now when you assess how much I have to pay, that's where you look at v'sach havedin. But Lagabe, what triggers it, kalor, it has to be something left hektish. So first of all, Rav Huna, you're disagreeing with Rabami, and you have bigger problems because uflika de Rabbi Lozer. What you said as well does not agree with what Rabbi Lozer said. The Yomer Rabbi Lozer, kederech shetiknu meshicha belekucha is the same way meshicha. Ketev is not koina. You need to make meshicha by lekucha. Kach tiknu meshicha b'shomer. In order to become a chuy by a shomer, you have to make a meshicha. Otherwise, just dropping it off by him would have been mechayev. Tanya nami hachi. We have a braysos to support what Rabbi Lozer said. Keshem shetiknu meshicha belekucha is kach tiknu meshicha b'shomer. And let's turn on to Mebeis. Just like Kesef, you can be kind with Kesef V'shtar Chazaka. Kach Schiris Nikne BeKesef V'shtar Chazaka. Schiris my avidite. What do you mean Schiris? If I want to rent a bike, if I want to rent an animal, it's Nikne BeKesef V'shtar Chazaka. No, it means Schiris Karka. The same way you buy Karka, that's how you rent Karka. So Rabbi Lozer clearly says it's the Mashiach that's going to be kind of not using it. Schiris is kind of with a regular kinyan. It's not with using it. So you see, Rabbi Lozer also argues on Rafut. Okay, Gavaltik. Now I want to focus in a little bit on this discussion of what the me'ila, what do you pay for, what has to happen. So there's a very interesting tosus on it that's kedai to see, even though it's a little bit of a long tosus, but it's very, very important. Okay, so let's go to over here. Uve mashal kordum lechavere. I'm like 6 lines down in the uber wide lines. In my Gemara, being that it's like a new Indian, it's in bold. You see it over there? Uve mashal kordum lechavere. Uve mashal kordum lechavere to kamaracha. So you have a gizbar who took the kordum that belonged to Hektish and lent it to his chaver. It says over there, Hayanir, I would say, Hayanir Lari, the Re would say, L'chayra, Sheyatza, Kol HaKordam, L'chulun B'Shaylazu. The fact that I merely let him use it, not give it to him, the whole axe goes to chulun. Ulakach Chavere Muter Levakeya Boy. And that's why he's allowed to use l'chila, because the whole axe is not chulun. So when he's using it, he's using a davar shulun. Umikol Makam. So the question is, if I caused the entire axe to be removed from Hektish, I was mabed Hektish the full value of the axe. Nevertheless, even though the Hektish lost $150, he only owes Hektish $5, which is the Toivas Hana, which is a very big chiddush. Ulfizeh zokt Toisvis noitel evenoi kerishalim. What if he takes a stone or a beam of Hektish and he takes it for keeps, not just to lend it? He takes it for keeps. Nami loy moal el lefitoy v'shanashavay. He'll only be moal kefi how much he benefits from it. So this is a mind-blowing chiddush. We always thought whenever you're moal, you pay the value of what you took plus 5%, plus 20%. Based on what the Re is saying, no, Me'ila is totally different. Doesn't make a difference what you took. It doesn't make a difference what the value of what you took is. You assess a benefit that you had from it, which means if I stole a beam and I put it into my house, I didn't have any benefit. If I sit by the beam and I enjoy the shade or I actually benefit, that's what I pay. Which is a beam can be worth $1,000 and I only have to pay $5. Very, very big chiddush.
Yes, I put it just for storage, or I built it in.
Even if you built it in. I'm sorry? Well, that's the Toivus Anois, right? But Toivus and the Toivus are saying that means if the Gizber who's moil pays, so whatever the regular case where you're moil, you should also only pay what you benefited, not necessarily the value of the object, even though the whole object went l'chulun and was taken away from it. And this does the Re doesn't like. Let me just finish. It's mashma that our case here is unique. Here, the Gizber only pays because he was lending it out. But based on what we just said from the Re, in every case, you only pay what you personally benefited. It's mashma in our sugya that since he's only lending it, there's a special halacha. But really, this is the halacha across the board. Dr. Re, what I'm saying is wrong. In our case, where he was never giving the axe to the borrower permanently, he was just lending it to him. Therefore, he's not discharging the kedusha from the whole value of the axe, because that's never what was taken. The loan value, whatever it would cost to borrow an axe, $10 a day, that's the part that went to chulun. To be toivas, so nachmal. Akash to near Lari, where my near Yosy should ain't Yosy the chulun ela oisa no should noisin l'shoyel. So why is it muter levakeya boy? It's atman ha'she'ela v'lo Yosy. It's not that it can use it forever. The axe is still kadosh, but the next 12 hours of this axe is not kadosh, because that's the part of the axe that the kedusha was discharged for. V'lo Yosy. But if you actually gave it to your friend, not lent it to him, the alma mol pikula, there the meila would be for everything. So now that changes the whole picture. So therefore, whatever you take away from Hektish, that's what you're mechuyah on. Here, all you took away from Hektish is the use. Therefore, your meila is limited to that. But of course, in a regular case where you take away the whole thing, avada your liabilities for the whole thing. So then, if you're going to tell me that there's a chelik of this axe that's chulun, the borrowed chelik, so how could you use it? How could someone use it? Lemaisa, there is a stamches of chulun in here, the part that was Yotzel L'chulin, but there's still the rest of the axe is Kaddish. How could you do it? So Toytvis v'Yishloim Kivin Sheshila Umol B'Shela Yotzitz Kol Anos B'Kul L'chulin Vein Murvav and Hektish Klum. Here it won't be mixed. Today's operation of this axe is 100% Chulin. You don't have to worry about it. The type of Kivin D'Benasan L'Chaverei. If I gave the axe to my friend completely, Moal Lefi Kol Ma Shahoitzi Mishuzek. If I gave it to my friend permanently, what's my meila? Not my type of shana. My meila is the full value of the axe. So oibazoi, if that's the case, v'nosan lechaveri gam b'kan yimal v'kol mashu shabanos bikua. If I give you the axe of Hector, we don't say that my chiyuv is for my type of shana. My chiyuv is for the full value of the axe. So if I give you a loan on the axe, and that's worth $20, so then $20 should be my meila. Because shouldn't it be what I'm giving the guy? So over here, I come to only type of shana. The Shlomo Zaktosh is another chiddush. The benosan moil kedin lefikula. Why? Kikula hivzit lehek. If I gave the axe away, so I was mafted hektish the entire value of the axe. Therefore, I got to pay it, the whole value of the axe. However, avokan lo hivzit lehektish elamasha nivkas akordon lidei bikula. How much did the axe actually get damaged by lending it out? Microscopic bits of metal fell off it. That's nothing. The toivus another the shelav its fate. The toivus another that we assess at $5, that's even more than what he actually was mafsed. So that's why that's all he has to pay. So just an interesting perspective on what the chiyuvim are by Me'ilah. Okay, we are now on Tzadik Testament days, and we will finish the daf. Omar Shmuel, we are 4 lines down. Omar Shmuel, Haiman the Godel Chavitza the Chamer Mechaveri. They used to bundle up 50 dates in a bundle. They used to squish them all together in a bundle, and they would sell that. And someone stole that from his friend. Because that's how the Chavitza the Chamer came back. So the halacha is Adav Hadodi Mizdavnon Benun Nachichada. If you go to the store and buy the whole bunch together, it's $49. But Chada, if you sold them one at a time to people who just wanted to buy one day at a time, Mizdavnon Benun, it would be $1 per date. So therefore you can make money that way. You buy for $49, you sell it one at a time for one each, and you come out with a profit of one, right? There was the variety store. There is still a variety store at the corner of Del Park and Bathurst. And he used to sell for yeshiva guys single cigarettes. The guy didn't want to buy a whole pack. So he would sell, in those days, I remember it was 25 cents a cigarette. Today it was probably $25 a cigarette. But I remember, he still doesn't. But I remember because I had a chavrusa who didn't want to buy cigarettes. But he would go in and I'll buy 2 cigarettes for 50 cents. And he'd buy 2 cigarettes at a time. So that's how we did it. It's the same thing. It's called the karmas of buying in bulk and selling it one at a time. That I'm not sure about. So Zok the Gemara, so therefore chada is davna. So lahedjit, if you stole this from a regular person, mishalim chamishim nachi chada, you only pay him 49. You only pay him 49. Laheknish, but if you stole this from heknish, then mishalim chamishim, you have to pay the full 50. And vichem shayu, and of course, like anyone who's moil bakish, you got to pay an extra 50. Masha enkein b'mazik, but a mazik, if you were mazik heknish, the loy mishalim chum. Because really, if you're mazik hektish, you're potter and ganzen. The only they're abundant that they're mechayiv you to pay for a mazik. The Yomar Mar ish ki yoichel koy. When is there a chiyah for somebody to pay back hektish if he eats? Prat l'mazik, right? In the sugya of mazik, we learned it doesn't apply to hektish. It's dafka achicha, sorry achicha. Okay, Gabal. So now what we've still the vek is that when you steal from hektish, we're more strict with you in the assessment of the value of what you stole than if you stole from a hedge. Break the Gemara Matchka for Abibi Barabai. Lahedit amay mishalim chamishim nachichala. Why is it that you only have to pay back 49 if you stole this bundle of 50 dates? Namely, let the victim, the nigzal, say, you costed me money. I was planning to sell it one at a time. So now I'm stuck because I should have had $50 in my pocket now. And now that you're giving me 49, I'm losing money. Amar Rav Huna bar Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Huna bar Rabbi Yeshua said, when we assess how much the mazik has to pay, we actually go easy with him. And the way Rashi learns, the big machlokes Rashi and Tosfos and Bava Kama how this works. But the way Rashi learns is, let's say he ate an aruga. If you just get the price of an aruga based on what it costs in Metro, it's going to cost the mazik a lot of money. So that's not how much the mazik has to pay. What the mazik has to pay is take a base core, which is a larger piece of property, and ask yourself if let's say he ate 10 bushels. If 10 bushels are missing from this base core, how much less would somebody pay for this property because of it? That's going to be a much less than actually buying the groceries individually in the store. That's what the mazik has to pay. But it gets even better. According to Rashi, there's a second level because a base score might be expensive to begin with. You don't evaluate a base score based on the cost of somebody who wants to buy a base score, because a base score might cost $100,000. You look at the value of a base score if someone was buying 60 base score. If someone was buying 60 base score, it wouldn't be 60 times 100,000. It wouldn't be $6 million, right? It would be maybe $4 million, which means each base score is not worth 100,000 anymore. Now each base score is only worth 80,000. So that diminishes everything, which reduces the liability to the mazik. So at the end of the day, you see that the Torah is slanted to protect the mazik from having to pay too much. So therefore, it makes sense that in the case of the guy who stole the dates, you should pay a little less. It's not directly linked, it's not 1 to 60, but at the end of the day, you see the Torah is not looking to stick it to the mazik that much. He's going to try to help him out a little bit. So what we're basically saying is the mazik has to pay wholesale, not retail, especially if he's Jewish. Right?
Right, now the wholesale price is only if you take 7. If you damage all 7.
I hear. But since this guy owns a whole field, we look at it like the value of his field didn't suffer that much. It didn't suffer as much as the actual value of what he would have sold the produce for individually. So therefore, you see that there's an Indian that we're a little bit makel with people who damage. So if the Marshal, remember the Shmuel. So what Shmuel is trying to say that din hedid lavka din gavoyadami, that you're more lenient when you're assessing the damages of a hedjit than you would be in the same case if it was hektish that was being damaged. I'm going to show you that Shmuel says they're treated the same way. But now we learned not al even mehek. If you stole a rock or a beam from hektish, loy mal, you're not moil. But but if you transfer it over to your chaver, now there's a key. Now not all even hektish. Rashi says if you go into hektish and take an even of course you're moil. We're talking about if the gizbor took it. Wherever the gizbor is, everything that's his is rishus effective. So if the gizbor took it, there was no transfer of rishuyos, he's not moil. But if he gives it to a third party, then who moil? The gizbor's moil for being moitzi hektish lefulin, but chaveri loy. How about if the gizbor was bana b'sech beisel? He built the beam into his house. Again, he never took it out of hektish's rishus. Loy moil, he will not be moil achi yider tachteh b'shavar pruta, until he sits under this beam and benefits from it b'shavar pruta. That is halacha by hektish. The Yosy Bava kamed Rabbi Yochanan. The Yosy v'kamar mishmei Shmuel. They said over in the name of Shmuel. Shmuel is our place in this stuff. You know what you learn from here? Just like you see by hektish, where you're sitting and having enough from a beam of hektish. You're not depleting the beam. You're not damaging the beam. You're just benefiting from the beam. It's zen the and you're still mechuyev to pay hektish. Hador b'chatzer chaver shalom midaitai. If you benefit from your friend by living in his field without him knowing about it, without his permission, even though he wasn't going to rent it out to anybody, so you weren't mafted him. So it's zen the you have to pay. So you clearly see Shmuel does apply the chumrah of hektish to the hedjit as well. So how could you tell me that Shmuel holds you could be more lenient by hedjit? You see clearly he applies them. Zok the Gemara, Shmuel mayahi. Shmuel was chayzer from this that we just learned that he equates hedjit with hektish and he's machmer by hedjit as well. How do you know? You have two halachas that Shmuel said. Why are you assuming that he was chayzer from the halacha that he's being machmer on hedjit? Maybe he changed his mind when he said that hedjit is more lenient, and maybe the final thing that he says is hedjit is just as chomer as Gemara. It's more mistaber to say that he was chayzer from the fact that he wanted to be machmer by a hedjit. Why? Because of something that Rava said. The Amar Rava, hektish shaloi midas kehedjit midaston. Hektish shaloi midas is like hedjit midas, meaning we always treat hektish is like hedjit midas, meaning Hashem always knows when you take something from hektish. So therefore, You take something from Meknes as if you took something like Hedya from a Hedyet, which means that clearly Hektish is more Chomer than Hedyet. Since that's the overall Svara, that's the overarching Svara, we would suggest that Shmuel might have originally equated Hedyet to Hektish, but the Maskana, he does not equate Hedyet to Hektish. Let's just see Rashi. Kehedyet midastami, Kehektish munach limoil l'cholabah. There's no one protecting you. Hektish is just sitting there. Rachmana Amar man de mishani limoil. The Torah said if you have a na, you're moil b'rachmana yada. So that would explain why you're moil when you have a na from a beam, because there's no one to stop you. The Rebbeinu Shalom knows about it. So that's where there's such a hakbada. But there wouldn't be such a hakbada by Hedjed. Sorry, what were you saying, Chaim? Halucha l'maisa, what we paskin? I think we paskin as potter. Because we're more machmer by hectare. We're more machmer by hectare. Zok the more about it. Amar Rava, Hanish Shekulo, there were delivery people. The Taver Chavisa the Chamra Lechandva. They were moving around barrels of wine on behalf of this chandani, and they broke a barrel. So what is their liability? Now, b'yoyim deshuka mizdavna behei. On the day where people are buying wine, wine is a hot commodity. The store owner would be able to get $5 for the barrel of wine. He would sell it little by little. He would get $5 out of it. Bishar yomi, in a regular day, mizdavna ba'arba. It's only worth 4. So depending on when they pay him back, if they pay him be early enough that he could still sell it b'yoyim the shuk and get his $5 out of it, then they could just give him a barrel which might only be worth 4, and that will be good enough because they weren't mafsed him. At the end of the day, they delivered to him the barrel just when he needed it. But b'shar yomi, but if they returned it after the yom hashuk, and now this Chedvani cannot sell it anymore for his profit of 5, then mahadru lahei. Then they got to pay him in full because they were mafsid that he could have sold it for 5. However, even so, there's a way that I don't want to maybe twice a year. It's not how. Yeah, it's not all the time. Let's see if Rashi says how often it is. He doesn't know how often it is, but it's from time to time. So Zok to Gemara, however, they just missed the Yom HaShuk. Did he have any other barrels in his warehouse? If he had other barrels in his warehouse, he didn't sell them. They can tell him, don't tell me you would have sold it. If you would have sold it, you would have sold what you had. Elamai, you would have never sold it. So if you would have never sold it, we're just giving you back the barrel. No, because he could buy more later on, right? We're giving it to you now. And he didn't, and therefore they don't have to pay him extra. Another thing is, if we give you 5, if you buy it for 4 and you sell it for 5, you don't have $1 profit. Because out of that $1 you had expenses. You have to schlep, you have to deal with it, right? You'd rather not work. Sometimes you're not making enough profit to make it worth your while. So you would be willing not to have to schlep and settle for a profit of 75 cents instead of $1. So that they don't have to pay him a full of 5, they can pay him $4.75. And also the May bars are nicer. They had to put a spigot into the barrel so that they could get wine out of it. Costs money to do that. That also comes off. So therefore, he's not really giving him the full 5. He's giving him the full 5 less the expenses that he would have had anyway, and that's what the porters, that's what the schleppers would be mechuyev to pay. Okay, Baruch Hashem, we finished off topic test. We're up to 100. We're up to snake eyes. We're up to kluf. Which we'll learn it tomorrow. Well, snake eyes is 100. When somebody used to get 100 on a test, somebody used to snake eyes. Yeah, 100.